Hey everybody, we're here with the VanBassador with Alyssa Ravasio, founder and CEO of Hipcamp. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Give us a quick recap of what is Hipcamp for those who don't know.
Hipcamp is the #1 app for finding and booking campsites. As of last week, we have pretty much all of the campsites in the US. Still a few missing, communities helping us find them. But you can add in dates, filters, like if you need to bring your pet, if you want to go tonight. We've built out a ton of infrastructure to make it, hopefully, very simple for you to get outside.
What is your background? Could you talk a little bit about how this came to be?
So I was really lucky. I grew up camping all the time. I grew up in California, but my dad would always book the campsites. So I got this amazing lifelong love for camping, but a lot of naivete around how difficult it is to book campsites. Then in parallel, I studied technology at university. I created a major about the internet. And so Hipcamp for me is about taking this real passion for the internet and harnessing this great technology to, shape the future with something I personally find a ton of joy and healing in, which is camping. And so the idea is let's use tech to get more people outside and make it simpler to go camping.
Let's talk a little bit about global expansion. Where are you now? What's your global footprint?
Hipcamp was started here in the US. This is our first market, our largest market. But a few years into the business, we actually launched Australia, partially because we found an amazing team there that we got to partner up with, and partially because my husband's Australian, so we have lots of family there, so nice to have a couple of reasons to go visit. And in Australia, we're also the #1 app for finding and booking campsites. So it's been amazing to be in these two countries that have a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. And we really use that to accelerate our learning because we get 2 summers a year, which is amazing. And so we're just kind of constantly learning and getting ready for summer and then learning how summer went. So it's been a great symbiotic relationship.
I deal with a lot of companies exporting physical goods. When it comes to services, you're talking about a platform that would seemingly become a very localized platform. And to bring that to a new market, what are some of the challenges you faced in Australia versus, for example, the UK?
I think, in different countries and in different even regions of countries around the world, there's so much local culture. And so we have a principle very much of always doing our best to understand first and really respect that culture. The primary way we do that is by hiring or partnering with amazing people who are from the area, who understand the area, who can help us make sure we're saying caravan instead of RV, for example. But it goes deeper than that, right? Like the culture itself actually is quite different country to country. And so as a platform, what we try to do is understand what can unify those cultures, what's the shared infrastructure that will then support all of the amazing diversity and all of the amazing, just different ways that people love to get outside all over the world.
From a policy perspective, what does that look like when you're going into Australia?
Policy, luckily for camping, most policy is very, very local. Which means you generally have really engaged elected local officials who are really familiar with their area. And so we're often working with government agencies to understand how we can best direct people to the public campgrounds. We're working with commercial campgrounds to help them reach kind of our new community. And then we also work a bunch with farmers and ranchers and other private landowners. And in that case, if there isn't clear regulations around private land camping, we're often partnering and reaching out to local elected officials to help develop more regulations so people can do this safely and legally.
Can you talk about the challenges in the UK?
I think when you're looking to expand into new markets, again, for us, we always have a principle of partnering with someone who is local, who understands the market, who can really ideally have as much autonomy and as much freedom as possible to make the right decisions and kind of guide that new entry. We've learned the hard way that things that worked here won't work elsewhere. And by the way, things that work elsewhere won't work in other countries. So for example, in Australia, we had a really successful launch, pretty much no real pushback. It was, a big upgrade. A lot of the community was using a company we had acquired there and the tech was better. And so people were very excited. In the UK, we had a similar but very different experience where we were able to bring in better technology, right? Like the company we partnered with in the UK didn't have an app. We have an app now, right? So it was a very exciting technology story. But the competitive landscape was so radically different than anything we had encountered in the US, in Canada, or in Australia that we made some mistakes as we were entering. We didn't understand basically how quickly a local competitor was going to change their messaging. They took our messaging. They took what made us different was suddenly what they all wanted to talk about all the time. And it just caught us off guard. And it was the kind of thing that I will remember viscerally for future expansions.
How do you deal with that when you've got a message and somebody co-opts it? And what did you do to counteract that?
I think when you do something you believe so deeply in, when someone takes your messaging, part of you is happy. Because in this case, the messaging was all around supporting farmers and ranchers. It was a platform that previously hadn't really done any work with private land. And so that was going to be our whole unique value prop. And then suddenly they were supporting the mental health fund for farmers. And honestly, I was great. I want that impact to happen. That's great that it's happening. It's always, flattering when you're influencing people so much. I think from a business strategy standpoint, we have really done a lot of deep thinking in the last few years to find a differentiator that is harder to replicate. And so a few years ago, we were one of the only platforms where you could camp on farms and ranches. We created this whole category. It was new, it was different, it was exciting. More and more people are starting to try to do that. And even though they might not do it as well as us or at as much scale as us, it kind of takes away from that being something only Hipcamp does. And so today Hipcamp has about 100,000 campsites in the US that you can't find anywhere else. That's amazing. And we do talk about that. But the differentiator today that we're really excited about is Hipcamp's now the only platform with all the campsites. And that's harder for people to replicate because it's a lot of work. So I think we've really thought a lot about, how do we make sure, because we're not a company that's going to spend, $50 million next year on marketing. We actually spend very little on marketing. We grow when our community is happy with what we offer and tell their friends. And so we really try to think hard about making sure we're building something people are going to love.
I want to talk about how Hipcamp is making our government more efficient.
Oh, geez. So Hipcamp has been involved in a lot of the contracts around reservations on our public land. We've never bid on any of them, but we do get involved. And our main goal and involvement is making sure that no one company wins the right to monopolize or reduce access to our public land. So generally that means we're advocating for open data. We're advocating for an open playing field. We've never advocated for special treatment for Hipcamp. It's always about, for example, recreation.gov, which is a platform to book all of our national parks and federal land. We were very involved. We were leading the charge to make sure that contract had open data built into its core. When we got involved, the contract actually said whichever private company wins this contract was going to own a lot of the critical data about our national parks. And we were able to redline that and be but why? That doesn't make sense. So we think that anything we can do to increase access to the outdoors safely is important, and that's generally the role we're playing.
And that can be through API access, for example, and you can pull in that data into your platform.
Totally. Yeah, so what we're working on with recreation.gov now is something that was actually in the contract 10 years ago that still hasn't happened yet, which is an API. And in that API, a booking API, it would mean Hipcamp or All Trails or other companies could actually, help you book a campsite on some of our public lands. And you wouldn't have to, click through and go to all these different places. And I feel very clearly that's the future. Travel has proven this out to us. It's not necessarily rocket science, but it's something that we're really excited about that we think will bring public lands to a whole new audience. And importantly, increase revenues on public lands. Well, a lot of our national parks got booked out, 10 years ago. The reality is there's really cool camping on Army Corps of Engineer land or National Forest land or places people might just underappreciate. And so I think, meeting people where they are and all the various digital apps and platforms they might use is going to really increase access to our public lands.
That's great. As somebody who's booked many a night on recreation.gov,
yeah,
it'd be great to have somebody come in with another layer of
right?
interactive takeaways you want to provide people around how to grow their business, those moments when you say, I don't know where I'm going to go next. And specifically when it comes to international, making that leap to say, I think we could do this.
I think when you're not sure where to go, a couple things I always come back to that have never led me wrong. One is taking like quiet time alone and generally going camping. And I love writing, so I like if I'm really lost or feeling confused, the recipe is normally solo camping trip, couple nights, one night, bring my notebook and just like write it out. It's kind of an amazing process. You realize you know so much more than you thought you did. And then always talking to customers. Like if you're really looking for direction, like I've done entire weeks where like pretty much all I do is talk to our hosts or talk to our campers, just to really reground in what's going on. And then I think if you're looking at new countries, you know, obviously you want to look at the data and you want to make sure you're well researched. Don't sleep on understanding the competitive landscape because it can change really quickly. Competitive landscape today is not what it'll be in a year, because I think especially as a bigger company, when you enter these markets, everyone reacts. And so then you're like, oh, didn't see that coming. So don't do that. But for me, it's about getting on the ground. If there's one thing I could change about some of our expansions we did during COVID, I didn't like go to the countries because I couldn't. And I think there are blind spots I had because I hadn't actually been there in person and felt it, that I would have figured out if I had gone there. So that's a rule for us moving forward.
If you could have a superpower for your company, what power would it be?
To book any campsite in the world accurately and safely and responsibly at any moment.
Is AI helping with that?
Yeah, I mean, AI it's a powerful tool. Again, is it bigger than social media? Probably. Is it bigger than fire? We'll see. So I think we're all figuring out how it can help us, being really thoughtful about, you know, using it responsibly, but it's definitely increasing connectivity and just our ability to provide access to a lot of information that previously was hard to do.
Again, everybody, we are here with Alyssa, CEO and founder of Hipcamp. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.